Hey guys, how are we all doing? I hope we are well. I'm hoping the audio is well. I've had a few issues over the last couple of videos I've noticed, so fingers crossed it's okay. Anyway, welcome back to Sewing Book Club. If you're new here, and I know I've got a few new subscribers, hello guys. I will link above and down below my playlist for all the other sewing book clubs that I've done. It's a little bit of a series, it's nothing serious. I'm going through my collection of pattern books and fashion source books and other sort of related to sewing and crafty bits and pieces. Previously I did a video on the 59 turn of the century patterns and the voice of fashion. Now I've already covered that, so that's a different video. But what I'm covering today is what I would probably call the modern historical fashion books, I guess, maybe. So we are going to be covering today Regency women's dress, making Edwardian costumes for women, and if you've been following me and you've been interested, the typical Tudor. They are all very similar in the fact that they use the grid system, which I'll show you in a bit. So each square represents a unit of measurement. Go through all of that. So here we are, the typical Tudor. If you have already watched some of my Tudor videos, I've been making a kirtle and I've been making full outfits. You can skip this bit if you really don't want to, because I'll be going through this book again. But if you're also interested in what I'm making in my Tudor thing, I'll link up above again the playlist to my Tudor adventures. So there you go. So as you can see here, excuse the rustling, I've got you know, it's using it's in use. So this is a typical Tudor. This is actually what I consider more than just a pattern book. This is almost like a reenactor's handbook. It goes into so much detail. I mean, the history nerd in me just loves this. It came out very recently, and it's been the child of Jane Malcolm Davies and Nina Michaela, who run the Tudor Tailor. They have an Etsy shop, and they have a website, and they have a YouTube, and they do all sorts of good stuff. And what they've done is they have gone through and not just found garments that they have put into the grid pattern so you can make them. They have gone into a lot of detail around the fabrics and the colours, the social strata of Tudor England at the time, and it's really, really in depth. I mean, like I said, even if you're just interested in history, you could actually just get this book for this. You've got a lot in here to read, but it also goes through there's a little bit like history of clothing, but it also talks about, you know, the different types of sewing stitches that you need. There you can see, and it shows you how to do this. So, but what it also really does, I really like, is it talks about the different types of fabrics that they used, and they give you a description of the fabrics, so you can kind of work out whether or not you can actually completely historically mimic what you're wearing, or whether or not you need to go for something a little bit more contemporary. They talk about velvet, satin, taffeta, stuff that we all know, but then they talk about things like fustian and what it is. And it is a narrow fabric with linen or the worsted and cotton or wool in the weft. So instantly I go, do I really want to buy fustian, or shall I just look for a linen cotton blend? It's exactly the same, and they would have almost recognised it if you were to be transported back in time. But then it also talks about the different colours that they use, because obviously, hello Raja, dyes were very different back then, and they just go through all sorts of stuff. And it's, I mean, they give you pictures. It's also got a lot of men's patterns in here. Now, it's not unusual to see men's patterns in some of the other books, but this is yeah, men, women and children, and it's great for that. So let's just give you an example of, okay, so a man's cassock. So this is the grid system that they would use. Let me just get a little bit closer, and someone's have to look over. There we go. And you can see the grid pattern there, and what you would do is that you would count across to see how wide the pattern was, and then you'd measure that up against your model or the person who are making it for, say it's yourself, to work out whether you need to make it wider, shorter, narrower, longer. It's not foolproof, but I think it's probably far more accurate than the apportioning system, which I don't think works all that well sometimes. think I feel some charging coming on. And yeah, so this book really is good for all of that. I do have problems reading instructions. I kind of read it and go, I don't know what you're talking about. So I can't really talk too much to the instructions, but what I've followed is logical. I don't have any issues. I don't look at it and go, what do they mean by that? But ignore him. But I would say that anybody really who's looking into getting into historical, especially the Tudor era clothing, should get this. But I would maybe suggest it's not always your most beginner friendly, and there are some quite complicated things in here. So just a little warning. We are now on to Regency. Excuse me. This is the most recent book I have bought. I may or may not be having some Regency ideas coming up, or some get-togethers, or something like that. So I recently bought this. I've seen Andrew Clayton has it, and I think a few other people have it in their collection. And this is based more on American garments than British garments, and from what this book is suggesting, that the Americans followed more closely to the French fashion than the British did. The silhouettes are still the same, pretty much. It gives you the bare bones of it all, and you've got a little bit of history context. Again, you've got pictures, so you can, it's not just, this is a state, this is a state as they saw it in situ at their time. So you can see you're supposed to be playing tennis in that. I'm not sure how supportive that would be. It's quite low, quite revealing. Now, I've not actually used this book yet. I can't really say about how well the grid method is, how accurate it is, how much I have to do to make it work. But what I will say is, above and beyond anything, is look at the size of that. And this goes, and what I love about this book as well is it goes through the entire Regency from the very, very beginning, almost pre. So you've got a couple of patterns here that date from 1795 and 1799, which isn't Regency at all. George III is still reigning, although bless him, he was very ill at the time. And it goes right up to 1827. Yeah, 1827. And it gives you the thing there. So as you can see, you have got a wide range of outfits right there. And it's then up to you to then what embellishments you can see here, what the embellishments would be like. Again, each picture gives you, I think she gives you the extent garment she took the pattern from as well, so you can really get to see what she was looking at. So I'll keep saying her. Who is she? Cassidy Picocco. Picocco? Yeah, Cassidy Picocco. Probably should have said that at the start. I'm not really filming this bit. So you've got an evening dress from the mid-period there. And you've got a couple of bits of underwear as well. So we've got all of that. And it also gives you the sort of, I could see here this extent garment. It gives you examples of the types of fabrics. So it really helps you to get into the mind of, well, if I was going to make a Regency day dress, what would it have looked like? Quite patternated, to be honest. You probably would go, I think I'm going to go a little bit plainer than that. That's a little bit too much for me. So I'm really looking forward to using this, to be making a couple of things that I've got in my mind, to watch this space if you're interested in following along with that. But yeah, I got this off of Amazon. I'll link it down below. This is not affiliated link, so I won't get any money for it, but this is a decent book. I really enjoyed it. I'm glad I got it. And fast forwarding to the more modern era, my final book, and funnily enough, my first book, Making Edwardian Costumes for Women by Susan Rowland. I bought this at the height of the pandemic when my brain was melting. We didn't know what was going on. We thought it would be over. It was nowhere near getting over. And obviously YouTube went, you look like you could do some historical costuming in your life. And I went, why, thank you very much. I think I do. And so I bought this. And it's a very similar book, as you can see here. you've got a very big grid pattern here, and you just extrapolate it up. But you've got a pair of split drawers here. You can see, if you might be able to see, I've got some markings on there where I've counted them up. But this goes through various different aspects. So it shows you how to take measurements. So this is probably more a beginner-friendly book. The patterns in here for the Edwardians are reasonably simple. They're kind of a bit more on the edge of between the Victorian and the Edwardian. There's less pigeon breasting, it's a bit more upright. As you can see, that's a walking dress. I really do want to still make this at some point. I think it's lovely. And you've got another day dress here. I did make this-ish. It's very, very simple. It uses a huge amount of fabric, but it's reasonably simple to make. So you basically, again, it starts off with the undergarments, like your drawers, your chemise, your petticoat. You've got some blouse with lace insertion. You've got a 2-part walking dress, a day dress. So you do have everything. You've got a lined cape, an evening bag, hat and parasol, which is quite unusual actually. And it then talks about wearing the fashion. And what I love about this book, which is missing in the Regency book, are some more pictures around the making and the constructing and what it's supposed to look like at certain stages. You've got some good step-by-step instructions. And in fact, actually, you can see here, you've got the hat stage. I've not made a hat. Not sure I will, but if you're interested, you've got yourself a hat here, and again it shows you some of the pictures of what it's meant to look like. So I actually would recommend, if you're interested in any historical outfits of any time period, I recommend all these books in different ways. This is possibly the most beginner friendly. It's the grid pattern's quite big, so you can count it up quite easily. The patterns are reasonably straightforward. Some are a bit more complicated, but you could cut your teeth on this quite nicely. And then you can make it as wonderful and as over the top as you'd like with this one. I can't hand on heart recommend it because I've not used this book yet, but there aren't too many Regency dress pattern books out there. So there is a little bit of limited choice if you don't go down the patterns of fashion book, which I don't own any at the moment. I'm getting some good feelings from this book. And of course, yes, I do recommend this book. I recommend this book for history nuts, as well as those who want to make clothes and reenactors. This really does go through everything. This isn't as always beginner friendly as some of the other books. There are some assumed knowledge. It's also how do you manipulate the fabric, how do you hold the fabric when you're sewing. But you've got men's, women's, and children's book patterns in here. Yes, if you are really looking to get into Tudor fashion. And that is that, shall we say? Hopefully you enjoyed that. Hopefully you've been inspired to go out and have a look at your own books, or if you do want to get those books, happy days. So, thank you very much for joining me today. Thank you for subscribing. If you haven't subscribed, you're all equal in my eyes, but some are more equal than others. So subscribe and find out. Anyway, this has been a Crazy Cat Lady production. You've been watching an unoriginal idea. Until next time, guys, take care. Bye bye.